Hey guys, welcome back to Quick Hunts. Today we're going to be talking about a game I backed on Kickstarter and is about to be fully released on the NES, Trophy. You heard me right, a new NES game. Published by the 6502 Collective, the same folks that published Rolly for the NES, Trophy is a side-scrolling action platformer shooter akin to games like Mega Man. I was given a review copy of this game, but this was after I backed the game on Kickstarter, so keep that in mind. Also, because of this, I am playing on an emulator since my physical copy isn't going to ship until June. With that out of the way, on to the game. The story of Trophy takes place on the robot planet Geras 9. Here, Dr. Jared Sword and Dr. Zella Quinn learn of the planet and its inhabitants. After returning to Earth with his robot companion Beeper, Dr. Sword reports his findings while Dr. Quinn remains on Geras 9. When Dr. Sword and Beeper return, they come to find that Dr. Quinn has taken over the planet and set the robots of Geras 9 to do his bidding. In order to stop him, Dr. Sword and Beeper combine their strength and become Trophy. Like I said at the beginning, Trophy is much like classic Mega Man, down to a T, and sometimes to a fault. It's an action game that lets you choose between 8 different stages and eventually a 9th hidden stage after completing the other stages. Gameplay consists of the same side-scrolling shooting action as the early Mega Man games, so if you're familiar with said style, you'll be right at home with Trophy. However, it's almost too similar to classic Mega Man, somewhat cheap difficulty and all. Trophy can jump and shoot, and that's all you need to know. He also moves kinda slow for my liking, and his sprite is a little tall, but otherwise plays just fine. Control is tight and responsive, however Trophy's jump is a little floaty. For the most part, this isn't an issue as seasoned Mega Man fans will have no problem adjusting. However, there's a big problem with this game, and that's the level design. Levels seem designed with an NES hard mentality, and I've said this before, but that doesn't necessarily make for a fun or memorable experience. Levels seem almost designed to be malicious in their enemy and hazard placement, to the point that many segments are frustrating. Pits can sometimes be just barely short enough to cross, or spikes are arranged in the most annoying fashion possible. Some platforms are just out of reach, and some graphics are deceptive, not being clear on where the hazard is until you've already fallen for it. The game constantly is handing out free lives, and to be honest, this feels like a band-aid approach to try to equalize the game's difficulty. Luckily, the game does contain some unlockable power-ups, that while go away after a few hits, do come back after losing a life or when health is restored. Speaking of, health is restored when picking up trophies dropped by enemies. Unlike in Mega Man, however, the bosses do not offer weapons upon beating them. And that kinda sucks, though I can't fault the game for this, because if outside the Mega Man franchise, not many NES platforms did that, so it's not a fault of the design. If it hasn't been apparent, Trophy is a tough game, and not always for the right reasons. Apparently though, I'm in the minority on this, as most people are calling this game easy. Look, this isn't my first rodeo. I know the song and dance of this type of gameplay, yet I've never been a fan of what people call NES hard. I enjoy a lot of games that are of that status, but I've always been one to say good game design can triumph when working within limitations, rather than using a system like the NES's shortcomings as a means to make a game needlessly difficult. Besides, the same people that say Trophy is easy also called Mega Man 11 a gimmicky disappointment, which I wholeheartedly disagree, and I've made a nearly 20-minute video explaining why. On the presentation side of things, Trophy is incredibly fantastic with graphics and sound that really give the feel of NES-era games. Of course, being on the NES itself helps as well. Tiles, sprites, and color all help shape a very nostalgia-inspired but new experience that would make any classic gamer smile with glee. I'm especially impressed with the bosses, as they're all really big and detailed. They're also hard as hell, but have patterns that even when mastered can make for some intense fights. My only issue with the graphics is they seem kinda basic even for NES standards. The simplified design goes back to my gripes of being unable to sometimes differentiate what's a hazard and what isn't in some stages, where sometimes I wish the pits were just black squares. At least I wouldn't be mistaken in what I can and can't walk over. The music is incredible. It not only fits the NES and Mega Man aesthetic, but adds to the overall experience. It is a little basic even in terms of the NES standard, and I can't say it's catchy just yet, as I need it to sit with me for a little longer, but it's one of the best parts of the game. The sound is appropriate for the hardware. Not much to say as it's hard to judge based on the limitations of the NES. Overall, Trophy is a fun but flawed game. It takes the nostalgia of classic NES games to heart for an enjoyable but frustrating experience. I received my review copy near the end of March 2020, and by the looks of the email I was sent, the game is basically done, so not much outside of tweaking the graphics and level design will be changed for the final release. With this video coming out so late into the game's development, I highly doubt my criticisms will affect the game in any way. But I wanted to still seek this out because my pal, the ultra-healthy video game nerd, reviewed another one of 6502 Collective's games, Rolly, and it turned out pretty good. With Trophy being inspired by the Mega Man series, I wanted to give my perspective as a fan of the Mega Man series, so that any of my viewers planning on getting the game will know what to expect. Regardless, Trophy is a game for fans of retro games, platformers, and Mega Man, and I recommend it. That's all for this Quick Hunts. I'll see you on the next one.